I'm a licensed GC. I by law have to tell you
Yeah.
and recommend obviously hire a licensed general contractor, make sure
Yep.
they're insured,
Yep.
bonded, all the coverages that you need. And then anyone he hires and they get hurt on the job, it's not your responsibility because you don't have a contract with them. We have a contract with them.
Sure.
So that automatically protects you from anything. As long as that GC is very well protected and it has all their insurances, then you're good. You don't have to worry about anything. But when you hire individual trades,
Hello, you're listening to Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast, presented by Brandon Elliott. This show will be going over all aspects of real estate investing and is intended to educate, motivate, and prepare you to take action on your first or next real estate investment. For more information, please visit BrandonElliottInvestments.com. Thank you for listening and enjoy.
Welcome back, everyone, to Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Brandon Elliott. I'm excited today. We have a special guest in our own backyard of sunny San Diego, California. So excited to network with this guy. He's been in the game for a good amount of years now, being on the construction side, being a contractor, licensed contractor, and he's been doing a lot of ADUs lately. The last couple of years, it's been a big movement. Just the last few years when they passed it and so forth. So there's awesome opportunities within ADUs. I want to ask some questions about that. I'm sure you guys might have some questions as well. It's a great value add to build, brand new opportunities in your own backyard. And we're actually jumping into that in a project locally here in Old Town. So pretty exciting. But nevertheless, there's a lot of do's and don'ts when it comes down to hiring on the right contractor, and a lot of issues along the way when it comes down to projects just going too long or getting screwed over, paying too much, or not getting, paying and then not even getting the work done, right? So we want quality at the same time. So a contractor can either make or break the deal, and it's our responsibility as a real estate investor to really lead by example and to be able to guide and make sure that the transparency and communication is on point. So I asked Carlos to jump on today because he's been in the game and really been able to guide his team and crew, and he knows how to be able to hire on the right people, right? He's had the trial and error himself, and I know that we can all learn a lot from solving this one problem that many real estate investors have in the industry. So I'm excited to have Carlos on, but without further ado, Carlos, what is happening, brother? How you doing today, man?
good. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. I appreciate you taking the time to jump on this Zoom call with me. For anybody out there that doesn't know a little bit about your story or who you are, do you mind just diving into, your situation and what you're up to?
Sure, no problem. So we're a general contracting company in San Diego. We specialize in new construction, ADU especially, additions, and some very minor remodels at the moment. Not too many remodels, but we are specializing in ADUs, the process from A to Z, from a dirt lot, doing your design, structural blueprints, the permits, and then the construction as well. Only thing we don't do is rent it out for you. That would be on your own.
Yeah,
But
that's a full turnkey service at that point. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we take care of everything, all the process of the permitting and blueprints, all the the horror stories. And so you deal with one guy, you deal with us, one company from A to Z, from start to finish, including utilities as well.
Love it. So the architects, that's all included, and you don't need to
Yeah,
worry about any of that fun stuff.
exactly. Yeah.
So how
So,
many years have you been in the game?
so I've been doing this for close to 16 years. So pretty much my first job and the only thing I've ever done is construction. So 15, 16 years, ADUs, 3 years on ADUs, but that's all we do now, just ADUs, most of the work. But besides that, remodels, very little, and just new construction additions as well. But mostly 80% of our work's ADUs.
So it's safe to say over the 16 years you've been on a job site or two, right?
Yeah, of course.
So from your personal experience, have you dealt with a lot of investors, or have you just seen the lack of transparency, the lack of communication when it comes down to, real estate investors trying to get projects done and just issues with contractors and the client back and forth? I'm sure you've seen a few.
I've personally done every project. I've worked for investors, flipping houses with So we've done flips for new construction. We've done remodels for homeowners where they're going to live in the house. I mean, that's their personal house, and anything in between, So definitely we deal with investors or someone that wants to, make a profit in their project. There's a ton of things to look at. A lot of people want to take the project on themselves and try to manage all the traits on their own. I think it's an interesting thing for a homeowner to tackle, but it's definitely
a hell of a job. Yeah. I'm actually doing that right now. And it's only because the last contractor that I had, towards the end of the project, that individual started having some family issues, started bringing it to the property. It was taking longer, lack of transparency. It was starting to become issues. So on this new one, it's right around the corner from my house that I live, just 5 minutes. So we were like, you know what, maybe we'll try just hiring on subs. But man, I can't tell you how much of a mistake that was when it comes down to I'm not dealing with just one person, I'm dealing with a dozen. And now I need to make sure that as I talk to them, that they communicate with each other. And it's very time consuming. It's crazy.
Yeah. I have a lot of clients that they call me and they, we get a price from them. I give them a price, and for, the general contracting, managing the whole project. And
Yeah.
sometimes, they think it's a little high, and most of them are like, okay, I've done some work. I'm a little savvy in construction.
Yeah.
I can handle it. I can manage this. A year later, 8 months later, they're still not done.
Yeah.
Way over budget, and they lost it. And they're like, I should have just hired you. So I'll go over some of the key points of why that makes it a little different from hiring a GC, which sounds like it's expensive, versus trying to manage the job yourself and what could go wrong. So in my experience, when you hire a GC like us, we have a lot of relationships with subcontractors and vendors because we keep them busy year round for multiple years. We have the good communication with our subs, good communication with our vendors. They will do things for us that they won't do for you.
Yeah.
That's just like normal.
When you spend hundreds of thousands each year with them, and you've been with them for, 15, 16 years, it's common sense, right? You're going to get a better deal than the average mom and pop.
Yeah, you get a better deal, and they do things like if it's something that's hard to get, they will do their impossible to get it for me.
Yep.
Versus when you walk in and you've never dealt with them, they might not, for you to get a response from that vendor could take days. For me,
or weeks. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'll call them and they'll call me back right away.
Yep.
I get a lot of those benefits from vendors and subcontractors. And like, if I call my electrician, he's going to make sure my jobs are going good.
Yeah.
Because he wants my work and he wants
to stay busy.
Yeah. Our electrician probably has 10 to 12 jobs a year with us. Yep. And they're full on construction jobs, like full builds, full houses. So I think I give him like 50 or 60% of his workload. Yep. So he wants to make sure he's in good terms with me. So every job we give him, he's there early, he's fast, quality is good. And those are just type of the connections that you get when you hire a GC. Like, you can't buy that. It doesn't matter how much you pay your contractor or your electrician, you just can't buy that relationship. So that's definitely a big bonus when you hire a GC, that you get all those relationships and all those vendors that we have good communication with, faster products, pricing, which a lot of people get hesitant, like, oh, I'm gonna hire a GC, or I can hire the electrician myself and just forget the GC. But what about that relationship, timing, quality, and pricing?
So you have a lot of weight on your side then, right? Like, you have a lot of pull power because you have the time, you have the experience, and you have the busyness, you have the jobs to keep everybody busy. So everybody wants to do well by you so that they can keep getting paid, right?
Yeah. And, with all my subs, it kind of feels like they're on my payroll, but they're not. They are subbed out, but they're so busy with me. It kind of feels like, I give them checks like almost every week. Yep. So it feels like they're on my payroll, but they're not. So it's easy for me to be like, hey, you know what? If I have my drywall crew at a certain job and be, hey, forget that job. I need you to come to my other job. Like, it's more important. The homeowner, we're in a deadline. We have certain issues. We need to get this done today. I can pull that job to this job that same day, So if you call me, you have a leak at your house and you need some drywall work or something, I can call my drywaller right now and stop what he's doing at this job and take him to your job right now.
Yeah, to prioritize it.
Your contract with another drywaller is going to be impossible. You can't get him there today.
Yeah. Or if you did, you're going to pay out the wazoo
Yeah.
because they're taking advantage of that opportunity right there.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's three things that I always tell my clients because it's the three things that they're always asked for. It's pricing, it's the quality,
Quality,
and
the
it's the
time.
speed.
Yeah.
So those three things is what make a good contractor, right? So you get
Yep.
so price, you have quality, and you have speed.
The rule of thumb is you'll never get all three, right? That's a
You only
funny
get
saying out there.
you only get two.
Yeah.
You're gonna be missing the third one.
Yeah.
So if
And it is notorious, right? It is almost every time you can bet your bottom dollar, it's very close to being on point
yeah,
with that.
and when you get a GC, you get pretty close to getting those three.
Yeah.
You get pretty close to getting those three. It
Sure.
might not be a price from that electrician directly,
Yeah.
but the GC is also going to protect you because of course there's different types of GCs out there. I always try to benefit my client, so I protect my client at all times. So of course there's GCs out there that don't, but my goal is to protect my client. So that's my goal, and that's what you pay me for. I'm going to protect you from change orders, from bad craftsmanship, and from delays. That's my job as a GC. That's what you're paying me for. I'm going to make sure it's done right. I'm going to make sure it's done fast, and you get a good price.
I do want to talk about the protection for a second. When it comes down to, hiring on a GC, obviously the price will be a little bit more, but everybody needs to really consider, time is money. So it depends on where you're located in the US here, where that time makes sense or not. Like our properties over in Ohio, they are less expensive as far as good numbers on the project itself, right? If I get good quality work that I never need to worry about it again in the future, and that they can get it done at a good price, then the time isn't a huge, like the holding costs aren't expensive for me. But out here in California, the holding costs are very expensive. So time is money out here. And it's like, we got to get this sucker done, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to have poor quality because, then you could get sued out here like very quick and easy or whatever it may be. You just don't want to have to redo something twice. So when you're hiring on a GC, obviously you'll pay a little bit more, but you got to put into consideration, hey, this is actually going to save me so much time, which saves me so much money, which is very important. Well, let's talk about the protection for a second. What other ways should a brand new real estate investor or a homeowner, whoever, should they consider protection, what you cover, or what type of liabilities do they have when hiring on either a GC or a subcontractor? I know in the past, I've personally hired on a GC and they got hurt on the project really bad, actually. They tripped over one of their guys' like tools on the front porch, ended up falling on the stairs, messed up their back really bad, and was in the hospital for several weeks. It was crazy. But he was licensed, insured, bonded, and we were all protected. So his insurance fully covered everything, but it was still like one of those situations. First thing that comes to your mind after, hey, are you okay? Is, hey, am I going to get sued from this? Are you going to take my property, right? So what type of protection should the average consumer or investor think about?
Well, that's definitely a good point. I strongly suggest always for when you have a flip or some type of project like that, you have a course of construction coverage in your
Sure.
property.
Yep.
A lot of people don't do that, and that's very important. It's cheap, and you can get it for 6 months at a time.
Yep.
So you get a construction in your property, and that covers you from a lot of crazy stuff that can happen at your project. It protects you for the course of construction. Because if you're not in a course of construction, I don't think it covers you. Like the insurance company knows that you're in construction, it automatically voids your home insurance.
Yeah, so that's very important to have the right coverage, the right insurance. Not all insurances are going to cover your remodels. You have to have a builder's construction insurance policy. So, and if you guys need any connections to like the best of the best, I do have some amazing connections more on the East Coast, but they cover nationwide to be able to really cover the construction permits to note so that you're educated, you know exactly what you're going to get. You are fully covered and that you will save the most, which is very good peace of mind, right? It's important to have the right policies for insurance.
Yeah, definitely. And the second thing, I'm a licensed GC. I by law have to tell you
Yeah.
and recommend obviously hire a licensed general contractor, make sure they're insured,
Yep.
bonded, all the coverages that you need. And then anyone he hires and they get hurt on the job, it's not your responsibility because you don't have a contract with them. We have a contract with them.
Sure.
So that automatically protects you from anything. As long as that GC is very well protected and it has all their insurances, then you're good. You don't have to worry about anything. But when you hire individual trades, most of the time they're not licensed. Most of the time they're not fully insured. Just because you're licensed doesn't mean you're insured. So,
Yeah.
so you have to make sure.
So whether they're a GC or subbing, subcontractors, you need to get all the documents together and request that information. And then how can you verify it? How should the average consumer actually verify this information to make sure that it is up to date, it's accurate, that there is enough coverage, and they are licensed and everything?
Yeah, so you can just go to the CSOB.com, actually CSOB.gov, and you go there and you can type in the license number of the contractor, and then it'll say your license number, your liabilities, your bonds, all the insurances that are on there. So one site, CSOB.gov, and it'll tell you everything.
What does that stand for? CSOB.gov? I forget what it was.
CSLB is a California State License Board.
Okay. So, and if you're nationwide or in a different state, you can just simply Google like your state to see what that exactly is. They have a breakdown of each state as well that you could always search for.
Correct. Yeah, California. So if you're in a state, you will need to follow whatever. I don't know the websites of other states, so you have to search for that.
Yeah, but it's just a simple Google search. It's a simple type in after you request that information from the general contractor or the subs. Look it up, make sure it is accurate, it's up to date. There's no lawsuits or anything else or any negative things that are pending on that account. I've heard some horror stories in the past, and I'm sure that you have as well, when it comes down to people being licensed or bonded and then having a lot of negative information that's still on their accounts, or they're switching to a new entity every couple years, right? Have you heard of things like this?
You know what? I have seen some companies switch to a different entity, every 3 or 4 years is a different name. Same operator, different name, different address, different stuff. That's also another thing you want to look into when you hire an GC, which license number they have, how long have they had it for. If there's any claims on that license, it'll be on that website as well.
Yep.
It'll claims against that license number. And yeah, so I mean, obviously, if they're switching names and addresses, it'll tell you the associated businesses with that person. So you can type the person's name and he can say, well,
Yep.
Involved with this company, this company, this company.
Yep.
That's not always a very good thing to do. Be switching from a lot of places. Also, you can request a certificate of insurance, and you can always call that insurance provider or agent and be like, hey, I want to make sure this policy is active and it'll be covered. You can also get a certificate under that property name, which a lot of people would do. They'll say, hey, I want to make sure my job address is under your policy. And
Sure.
that costs nothing. It's free. So
Yeah.
I just call my agent and say, hey, can we list this property on my policy? And they will print out a certificate with the property address on there. And I can just give that to them. And that will sometimes any address we're in that we have a contract with, that's another thing you have to look at. If you don't have a contract, you're technically not binding. So the insurance company can say, no, we're not covering you because we don't have a contract directly with the client. So you have to make sure you have a contract with the GC, and the GC has their bond and licenses, insurances, payment bonds, all kinds of stuff, and a contract to make that insurance binding, or else it's like if you didn't have anything.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the contract and scope of work, but before we do that, just like from the very start of this, how do you pick like the right contractor, right? Like, how do you know that they are? Because everybody, claims to be the best or been doing it forever, or, will take care of them, that it's always going to be sunshine and rainbows during the project. But let's face it, I haven't been a part of one real estate transaction or one remodel that there hasn't been some kind of problem that comes up, right? In this industry, it's always going to have problems that come up, and it's how you react to the problems and how you solve the problem, right? So, how do you really set up yourself for success by hiring on the right contractor? Is there certain things that you would recommend a real estate investor to really look for or to get multiple bids?
Definitely, definitely. Lots of things to look at. Yeah, and
Yeah.
everybody can do the best, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, timing, it's very simple. They show up on time, they're late, they're not late, and their communication skills. So, for me, it's very good to be in good communication skills. It's kind of going to an interview, right? So when you hire the contractor and they're going to meet you at your house at 9, if it's 8:45 and they're going to be late, they know I'm going to be late. So if it's 8:45 and I know I'm not going to be there at 9, I will text you or call you, say, hey, I'm running 10 minutes behind. I'll be there at 9:10 or, but if they're there at 9 and you didn't get a call or a message, it's 9:05 and they're already late, that already gives you, he's not very well organized. He's probably under a lot of pressure. He's got too many jobs. So he's not very well organized and he's losing control. That's the first sign.
Even when bad things happen or problems happen during the day, whatever, sometimes we can be late. They didn't let you know ahead of time, right?
You know what? A simple text takes like 3 seconds.
Exactly. If you know that you're not going to be there early or on time, then it's a no-brainer to send that text.
You don't have 3 or 4 seconds for a new client.
Yeah.
The problems.
Yep. That is a problem.
So that's the first thing I do when I'm hiring new people or we're hiring, timing and communication. If they're not on time, that's fine. But did they communicate? No. Okay. Major red flag.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with you being late if you're communicating, and that's fine.
Yeah, problems happen, right? But how we react to them or how we try to solve those problems, if they just wing it and show up late, that's not cool.
Yeah. So that's the big thing first. Now, taking a further step is what type of contractor you're going to hire. I'm a big believer that if you're hiring a contractor for a kitchen remodel, that you stick with a contractor that remodels kitchens and bathrooms. And that's all they do, remodeling. And that their major focus is remodeling. Don't get a contractor that specializes in new builds for a kitchen remodel. Same thing the other way around. Don't hire a kitchen and bathroom remodel company to do a new ADU. We have transitioned our company. We started doing remodels to general home stuff, to kitchen and remodels, to home remodels, to additions, to new construction, to ADUs only. So we've never done everything at the same time. We specifically only specialize in certain phases and certain types of construction, so we stick with remodel. We did like remodels for 4 years, 5 years, but we just did remodels. I didn't stick to additions or new construction. We, slowly grew into new construction, and that's all we do now. The type of people, the type of equipment, the type of connections that we have with our special vendors and special contractors for that type of work is completely different when we do remodels to new construction. Way different. For example, when we do remodels, we very rarely speak with SDG&E, water department, the telephone people, engineers for source report, structural changes. Remodels, you don't deal with that. Very rarely, very little. So my communication with that type of people is very little. Now, when we do, so let's say if I'm a remodeler and I don't have communication with SDG&E or soils report, soils tech, setbacks, surveyors, all that stuff.
Yeah.
If model company, I don't talk to that people. And if I take a new construction job, I'm going to struggle so much to find the right guys, to find the right people. I mean, I don't have the connections. It's going to be bad. It's not going to be good. So I don't like companies that do, window replacements and also build ADUs.
Yeah. It's a red flag. It brings up such a good point. I've met contractors that they really want the job very bad or whatever it may be, and they'll just act like they're the jack of all trades and that they can do everything. Many of which could, but they're not going to be the best of the best at it. There's going to be more issues and it's going to take longer. A lot of people could do stucco, right? Outside work. But you want to hire on a stucco guy that does it every single day of his life and has been doing it for 15 years to be able to get it done quick, no problems whatsoever, and efficient, right?
I'm getting to that. Next. That's my list, but yes, so definitely, if you're looking for a kitchen remodel,
Yeah.
stick with some remodels. If they do ADUs and second floor additions, look, even the guys that we have in house is completely different.
Sure.
Stick with new construction and additions. Yes, we can do remodels, no problem, not a problem. But it's a little bit more harder for me. Like I take on maybe 1 or 2 remodels at a time right now,
Yeah.
and we 5 or 6 new construction, maybe 1 addition. We just, it's different than having a remodeling company that does 5 or 6 remodels
Yep.
in one. Completely different. For a remodeling company, sometimes they have a lot of spare parts in their shop, a lot of material hanging around
Yeah.
that is benefit for a remodel. In new construction, we don't store any material,
Yeah. Yeah.
Done, there's leftover drywall, it's trash. Get it
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
of
Keep it
here.
moving.
Yes. So definitely I like to stick with the contractor that specializes in that trade. If you're looking
Yep.
for that kitchen remodeler, ADU company, completely different. They shouldn't be together. I always advise my clients to get 3 bids from 3 different contractors within that space, so you can get a kind of average price of your project. Always 3 bids.
So with the 3 bids, I've made this mistake a lot, and I try to caution a lot of people with this. Make sure you walk the property first and you have exactly the scope of work that you're looking to get done. Because I've walked properties with contractors, 3 or 4 of them, and they start pointing out certain things that I didn't even think about. And then we're adding certain things to the bid that was different from the first one, right? So
Yeah.
make sure that all of your bids that you're getting are going to be apples to apples.
Apples, yes.
Otherwise, yeah, you're going to get 3, 4 different bids back, all completely different numbers. And it's hard to judge and figure out which one's going to be which.
Yeah, and always get a written bid. Wait for that bid to come back, and it has the scope of work. Make sure it has, Okay, we'll get into that later in the contracts, but yeah, so get 3 bids that are apples to apples.
Yep.
Make sure the scope of work is correct. We sell a lot of jobs a year, but I'm not that pushy contractor. I'm not going to convince you to hire me.
Yeah.
Everybody does it differently.
Sure.
I'm not a salesperson. I can be. I know sales tactics to get the job, but I don't like to be that pushy contractor. Like, I'm not gonna try to convince you why you should hire me.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't see it, it's not a good fit right from the start, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of research you can do. I mean, we have the world in our hands now with the cell phones and laptops and internet. You can literally research that company and see if they're on Yelp, if they're on Google, if they have pictures online, reviews everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, all that
Sure.
stuff. Super easy. If they have all that stuff in there and you can see their work, people commenting on their stuff, Yelp reviews are always super helpful. That gives you a lot of data where you can kind of guide yourself to hiring the right contractor.
Yeah, that's your due diligence, right? It's so needed.
Yeah,
it's very important.
Also calling past clients to see how your experience was. 1 or 2 clients. That's always a good. We spend $0 in advertising, so we don't advertise. So we don't pay for leads, pretty much. So
yeah,
all of our clients is word of mouth.
So
every
good.
single one. So I mean, not that you should look into if that company is paying for ads or not, but if you find that contractor naturally from someone that recommended to you, it is better than
Yeah.
pop up on a Google ad or on Yelp or something like that. Someone recommending you a contractor is better than finding one on a pop-up ad, for sure.
So that's actually my number 1 recommendation. When I actually switched over, instead of just searching for contractors myself, and I only went off of referrals, that was when I stopped getting screwed over. That was like when it wasn't just a cold relationship just starting to be built. They didn't feel like there's no hard feelings after they screw me over, take the money and run off, right? Or didn't do the work properly. When it's a referral and I call them and I say, hey, John or Mike or whoever, Joe ended up sending me over, said you were the guy to speak with in regards to this project. Can you help me out? Then whether, how good that relationship is with that person that referred is very important.
Of course, definitely.
Yeah, so as long as they don't want to screw over that person or mess up that relationship, they're going to do well by you. So make
Correct.
sure that you get the best of the best referrals from the relationships built. It's so important.
Definitely, definitely.
Carlos, I did want to ask, as far as bids go, how long would you say is like a general rule of thumb of how long like a consumer should wait before they get a bid?
That's a very good question. I mean, every state's going to be different. Every city might be different.
Sure.
San Diego, definitely with the market we have right now and the workload that we have right now, if it's super fast, I have a thing for saying like if the contractor can start tomorrow, or if he gets his bid back to you in like 24 hours, 48 hours or less, I don't like that because I feel like they're not busy enough. They might not be good enough. Something's wrong with them. Why are they not busy? That's how I feel. So on average, anywhere between 7 to 14 days, I would say it's probably good right now in San Diego. So a week or 2 weeks this is for the bits that we do. We're building new houses and
you guys are doing architect, quotes and everything. You're doing new builds. You got to really get detailed on what the client wants. There's a lot of moving pieces when building ground up construction permits and so forth. So that makes sense.
I do my bits a little different because we are building new construction. It's a lot easier to quote per square foot. So I have two separate bits. I have a general estimate bit where it's just very simple, very general. It's a general estimate, so you say, hey, I want a 1,000 square foot ADU. I can get that to you in 2-3 days. Very easy. I go out there, I look at the property, I look at utilities and demo structure, and then we quote based on that. That can take me 2 to 3 days. So to get you a range bid, 2 to 3 days, like, how much you think it's going to cost, I can give you a range, 2-3 days. Very simple. A detailed bid. So once I give you my general bid and say, look, okay, we're building this ADU. It's going to cost you 1,000 square feet. It's going to cost you 200,000. You're okay. Okay, that's within my range. I'm happy with that. Let's move forward and get a detailed estimate. Then that could take me about a week or two, and I will line item, and it's like 10, 12 page long bid.
Very detailed scope of work.
Every faucet, every light fixture, windows, stucco, it has everything on there. So that will take me about a week or two. And it's very detailed. It has progress payments, dates, architect. It has everything in there. So that could take about a week or two. But yeah, I wouldn't be so harsh on contractors that are taking a little bit longer than usual for bids, as long as they're communicating.
That's the thing. I would definitely recommend make sure there's communication. You do not want to be in one of those situations where you are waiting on the bid and then you keep waiting around and then they never even get back to you, because I've had that happen dozens of times as well. It's very notorious. So it's crazy to me to think about how many contractors out there waste their time going out to a project, looking at everything, saying, oh yeah, very interested, and then never even give you a bid. It happens more times than not, unfortunately. And maybe it comes down to time management, I believe. Maybe they did want the job, but maybe they're too busy. Somehow they got away for that hour to come view the property with you, but then lost of communication, out of sight, out of mind, whatever it may be. But make sure that there's communication that they are going to be working on it. They are going to get it back to you.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
And they're not getting it, I'll be honest with you. It doesn't matter how good that contractor is. If it doesn't give you a bid in a timely manner, don't try to hire that contractor.
Yeah, it's going to be issues. No matter how great the price is, how many referrals, whatever it may be, there's going to be issues behind that if the time management's off.
I kind of go through like an interview process with my clients. We have to make sure it's good for both of us, that I like you and that you like me.
Yep.
You don't have that connection, it's going to be very hard to have a good, successful job. So you want to make sure that you like the contractor and he likes you. If he likes you, he's going to get to you quickly. He's going to make sure you're there faster. If he says, I'll have you bid in 7 days, and it's day 7, there was no communication that the bid is late. It doesn't tell you. I know what's happening. I'll be guilty of that as well. I'll tell you why that happens. Is because we're just so busy with bigger jobs. That job it's not so attractive to us. Yeah. It's the sad truth, but there is other contractors that are more qualified for that job than us. So don't take it like, oh, it was very irresponsible. We're so busy with big jobs that it's not that we don't care, it's that it wasn't so attractive. It wasn't a good fit for us.
There's got to
And
be somebody that's prioritizing, where
yeah,
to spend the time. And there's fires that come up each and every day on certain projects that need to get handled and taken care of. So you got to prioritize. It makes
it's
sense.
a good fit, and it's hard. It's like breaking up with somebody. You
Yeah.
call them, you know what? I'm sorry, I can't do your job. But why not? Like, we're just so busy and we have big jobs that are in our, it kind of makes them feel bad. And I mean, it's not very easy to communicate that to a client. So most contractors, what they do is just don't call you. They don't
Yep.
answer.
Yeah.
And
It's very
I mean,
notorious.
it just doesn't mean that they didn't like you. It doesn't mean that, that they think they're better than you. It's just, it wasn't a good fit.
Yep.
It just, that contractor, that job for that contractor is not a good fit for him. He's maybe not interested, whatever it is. It's just not a good fit between you two, and it's not going to work out.
Yeah, so don't force it. I think that's the rule of thumb here.
Yeah.
Don't force it, no matter how bad you need it done or whatever that
Yeah.
referral is. I've tried forcing it in the past, and I realize it never ends up working out well. So don't force it. That's a
Yeah.
good.
He
That's
didn't
a
get
good
back to
tip.
you just because you're going to call him and email him and text him and visit his office, and you think you can get this guy to do your job. That you're already in the bad step.
You're in a bad step. It's so true.
Yeah.
So, Carlos, when it comes down to your first initial, just fast bid, rough quote of what you believe, the ADU, a new ground up construction will cost, you said within 3 days. Are you also giving roughly time frame wise of what to anticipate?
Correct. I do that in my first meeting. So I will tell
Okay.
you our planning. So it's first our design process. We have to make sure we design something you like. That I'll tell you exactly what our time frame is for design. I would tell you what the CD process time is for permits, and then
Yep.
I would tell you the construction time for completing the project.
Sure. Okay. I love it. And then as far as the bid goes, when it gets more detailed, do you ever do just labor versus materials or like rough materials you guys include, but then finish materials clients can cover?
Yeah, that's very common in remodel world. In the new construction, most clients just you do everything.
Yeah.
We give options on the finishes, faucets, doorknobs, maybe certain type of plugs,
Sure.
countertop, that type of finish. Yes, we can take it out of the contract and then the homeowner can purchase it at their own cost and we just doing the installation. So
Yep.
we do that option. But in remodels, when I was doing remodels, I know a lot of clients want to buy all the material and then the contractor just does the labor. That's a pretty good way to do things a little bit cheaper for sure.
Sure.
Sometimes the client buys the stuff, sometimes the contractor buys the stuff. I personally don't like it. I want to be able to control
So
who's
so
paying.
there's pros to it and cons, right? Like because if a lot of times I'm sure you can experience this, the owner, right, won't have the materials ready for the
Yeah,
contract. And then
yeah.
there's issues,
Or
right?
or if the contractors, would drive into the place and put in the order for the homeowner to pay, and then the homeowner is busy, it doesn't get
Yeah.
paid. I can't pick it up. I got my guy over there with the trailer waiting, and now the day, I just paid it. You're already in a bad relationship with that contractor. He's mad. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. He's
I,
mad
I,
because somebody's got to pay for it.
yeah. And then another thing I don't like is like sometimes the contractor will order more than what he needs. A lot of material gets wasted throughout the project because they're not paying for the material. They're not really being so conservative on the material. They're just like, just use it. If they don't take care of the material, if there's 7 spare boxes of vinyl flooring,
Yep.
by the time it's done, those boxes are trashed. They
Yeah.
got tossed around. There's paint on them. There's everything because he's not paying for the material. He doesn't care.
Yeah. I was just about to bring this up because I've always done, I pay for the materials. I have my guys go to Home Depot or Lowe's, pick it up or wherever needed, sometimes get delivered. And then I just pay for it either over the phone or through my account in house. And I've always been good to a certain point, but now I'm starting to realize, especially on this current project over in Old Town, that there's more materials being wasted. The crews that I'm hiring on and subbing out, they don't give a damn because they're not paying for it, right? And the property is getting more trashed, and I really don't like that. There's a lot of frustration there.
Another thing is like when you buy materials at Home Depot, the quality and the pricing of Home Depot products for your project are not as good as when the electrician furnishes his materials from an electrical supply house.
True.
Now, electrical supply house materials are going to be higher quality
Yep.
and going to be cheaper than Home Depot.
Yep.
So same things like when you're hiring a GC, you get those connections. When you have the electrician give you a bid, and you also get protected. Let's say you get a bid, it's in writing. You got 3 bids for the apples to apple contractor for an electrician to do some type of electrical work. Let's say a main panel upgrade.
Yeah.
And it's going to include all circuits, make sure everything's good. If something happens, something bad happens. Let's say something happens in 3 months, something blows or there's a fire or something, and you bought all the materials.
Yep.
The electrician's come in, hey, that's what you gave me.
Yeah. I didn't know what it was. I was just installing it. Yeah, that's on you.
It's on you. So you have to go fight the vendor, and the vendor is going to say, well, you have to go to the manufacturer.
Yep.
I think your house is down to power. There's problems. When you call that electrician and he bought the material and he did the labor, he has no option but just he's going to fix it.
Yeah. He has no other choice. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just going to fix it.
Can't point the fingers anywhere else. It's like it just needs to get done. Let's handle it.
And let's say what happens a lot with that is that so you buy the material and then the contractor that's doing the work says, well, it wasn't enough. I need more.
Yeah.
So sometimes they bid, they say, okay, I'm going to need 10 sheets of drywall to do this kitchen. And then you're doing the kitchen, like, well, that's a very small example, but let's say you're doing flooring. Let's say you're doing flooring. I have a good example for flooring. Flooring is very weird. So you get flooring and it's 1,000 square foot house and you order 1,200 square feet.
Just happened to me recently. Yeah.
And you didn't need 1,200, I need 1,300,
Yep.
So you're at 100 feet. You go back to the store and you want those 100 feet. Well, guess what? That floor, it's out of stock.
Yeah.
Or even worse, the manufacturer doesn't make it anymore.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah.
And those are problems that you're going to have to tackle if you bought the material. Now, what do you want to do? If you were to hire a contractor that he buys the material, he buys everything, you might still have that problem, but at least it's his responsibility.
Sure. Yeah.
Not
he gets stressed out about it, not you.
Yeah. Exactly. Your problem. You fix it.
Yeah.
We have a contract and you're going to furnish the floor and you're going to furnish the labor. And now there's 100 foot missing and it's and they don't make it anymore. That's your problem.
Yeah, it can't be mix match. It's got to all match up here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's happened. I've seen it happen. Where we don't order enough material and you go back that 100 feet, 20 feet sometimes, and it's out of stock. And I mean, sometimes we had to fly stuff from overseas or all over the country just to finish our project. It happens. But now I rather order an extra 300 feet and take back 200 and pay a 15 stocking fee on my account.
Every time. Yeah.
No problem.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree more. Cool. Let's talk about the scope of work and getting that contracts in place and detailed.
Yeah, very important. You got to make sure your contract includes, your address, your name, the company name, the license number of the contractor, a start date, a finish date, a time frame of that project. And definitely always, this is something a lot of people don't know, and I've encountered very recently with a lot of clients have called me, it's their down payments. A lot of people are not aware of down payment structure or how it works or what the law is on down payments. A lot of horror stories out there.
Yeah.
Even with all that data and information at our hands, it still happens. It just blows my mind. So the state law in California is you can only do 10% of the contract price. This is where it gets tricky, not to exceed $1,000. So we do projects that are, $250,000. Their down payment's only $1,000.
Yeah.
It's only $1,000 to put you in my schedule, and we're gonna be there with the full crew on day one with only $1,000. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. I don't care if you have custom glass being made or if you have. This is from a GC. If you're gonna hire a tradesman to do custom glass, they might require a 50% down payment. Just make sure they're, a good contractor, a reputable glass company. But for that specific trade, then maybe they will require a 50% down payment on a custom item that they have to manufacture. But for a GC, especially if you're just hiring for labor only, or even if you're hiring a labor in trade, an electrician to do material and labor, their down payment is $1,000 max.
Yeah.
So if the project is $2,000 and they ask you for 200, that's it. 200 is the max they can ask you is 10%. If the job is 100,000, they cannot ask for 10,000. They cannot ask for 5,000. I don't care what they have to buy of materials. That's their problem, not yours. So, I mean, I have clients giving $7,000, $8,000 down payments to other contractors. That just blows my mind because there's nothing you can do to be protected. I mean, yes, they have the bonds and everything, but that's time and money and, you know.
A lot of stress, a lot of headaches, and then your project's still sitting there.
Yeah, so make sure there is a payment schedule on your contract. Make sure what down payment is, how many progress payments. There's a final payment, and also change orders have to be on the contract. You know how a change order is going to be submitted, how are they going to be paid. Very important. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is who's buying certain materials or any special order items. So sometimes my client will say, well, I need help buying appliances. Can you order them for me? Yes, but that's going to be a 30% markup. So make sure you have those in the contract before you sign the contract. You know, most of the time the homeowner will buy it, but sometimes the contractor get better deals and then, you know, there's a lot of trouble ordering stuff. You know, sometimes I just order something and then as soon as I pay for it, the client calls me and say, never mind, I want to cancel that. I bought something else over here. Or I just put a down payment on it and now they're going to charge me a restocking fee or something. I don't know. So make sure all that figured out before you say order stuff for me.
Sure.
But yeah, so payment schedule is very important.
Yeah. So when it comes down to the payment schedule, like what do you typically do or what would you recommend for a lot of people out there? And when also just to give a statement on before you answer that, you know, how I stopped also getting screwed over by contractors just that are running away with the money is paying with credit card. So if they want the 50% down or whatever it may be, I started being okay with that because I'll pay with credit card. And as long as I have a detailed scope of work, a contract in place, then if they don't do the work, they run off with the money, whatever it may be, I can just call up my credit card company. It's a lot easier to dispute it with them and be protected with the credit card, right? So do you guys take credit cards and do you recommend that method?
I don't have a preference whether you pay for a credit card or not. The only downside for me is that, you know, our contracts are on the large side. So a 3% credit card transaction, sometimes could be thousands of dollars just for that transaction. So we have a construction project managing software where the homeowner can log into my website. They can see pictures, schedules, and do online payments. So you're going to see all the invoices for your project on our online login, and you can see everything. You have the option to pay with a credit card, or you have the option to pay with a check or a debit card. Paying with a debit card or a check, it's free. Paying with a credit card will do a 3% transaction. So something to consider if you want to save money, you can pay with the check. So payment schedule, down payment, 10%, not to exceed $1,000.
Sure.
Everything else after that, do not pay for items that have not been installed and do not pay for labor that has not been done. Pretty simple. If you want marble floors and it's a special order item, you can pay for those out of the contract. And then once they're delivered and installed, then you pay for the labor. So if the contractor is going to buy the special order tile because it has to go through his account or I don't know, whatever the reason he has, you don't have to pay for that special order tile. The contractor is going to pay for that. When it's delivered to your house, then you can pay that portion if you want to, or depending on the payment schedule. But you should never pay for any material that hasn't been furnished or any labor that hasn't been done at all. I don't care what the excuse is.
Oh, yeah. Never.
Don't ever pay.
For me personally, I've made this mistake thinking, hey, 90% is done, or it should have been done today. There's a little bit more work that needs to be done, or hey, everything's great. There's a couple little things that need to be fixed right here. They agree to it. No problem. Can I get paid? And I'll knock this stuff out, before the end of the day. It very rarely gets done. And And there's other things to it, obviously their character, do they show up on time? All these other things. Does it make sense and align with, hey, how confident are you? Can you bet money against that they will get it done? But usually those type of individuals aren't going to be begging for the money right now anyway. They'll be like, my bad, here, let me fix this stuff. And
Yeah.
then they're okay with getting paid even later, I've noticed. They're
Yeah.
not bugging you type of situation. So don't ever pay when it's 90% done. Make sure that that final inspection, right, is totally, they might have said it's done, but make sure you get that final inspection, and then the little things that might need to be touched up gets handled before payment.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a very good point. When you hire a GC or you want to tackle the trades individually yourself, that's where the big comes in. The GC is there to protect you. When you hire the trades individually, this is what's going to happen. You hire the contractor, the electrician, to do the work. I don't know if he's licensed or not. Most people that they hire trades individually don't hire a licensed trade, because they don't want to pay the GC fee. They're most likely looking for that cheaper deal, and they end up with the electrician that's not licensed.
Yeah.
So this is what's going to happen. You hire there.
Don't want to do that with every trade, like an electrician, a plumber. Exactly. These are some things that are very, very crucial. Make sure you get the license kind.
These are trades that can cause death, I call it.
Yes.
So, a fire to be a fire hazard.
Yeah.
The plumber can have a leak in the gas line inside the wall, carbon monoxide. You die from this stuff.
Yeah,
obviously, doing countertop might not to be licensed.
Yeah, drywall, maybe not. Yeah.
Paint, stuff like that. But when it could cause harm, you want to make sure they're fully
protected,
licensed, everything.
They know what the hell they're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what happens when you hire a trade individually and trying to manage the work yourself? I call it the filler work, where it's like one trade is ending and the second trade, let's say the framer has to finish framing for the plumber to come in, but you don't know that the framing was done wrong into your painting, or you're doing drywall. That framer is being paid and he's gone. To get that framer back at your job to fix a problem,
nearly impossible.
And he's being paid, forget about it. It's going to be very, especially when you only met that guy for your job. I have a hard time sometimes getting my framers to job,
Yeah, if they already got their money, they're on to the next thing. Yeah. They're not coming back for touch-ups.
With our subs, we keep them busy around. They don't hesitate. I call them, we have a problem. Yeah. They're there same next day, get it handled. No worries. But that's what's going to happen where the homeowner doesn't have that experience to see that the framing is done wrong because of the drywaller. That's going to have problems. And what they do is, let's say you have an electrician. He starts, when you're done framing, the electrician's there, and then he's going to be back again to do your finished electrical, your outlets, cover plates, light bulbs, light fixtures, ceiling fans. Sometimes that's, they do the rough, they do all that work. That's the majority of the work. They're going to ask 90% of the job. And then you're done with the 10%.
Yep.
People think, okay, it's a $20,000 job, 10% is only $2,000. If you have any problems, let's say the wiring was done wrong, because you hire someone that's cheaper, he didn't have a license, he wasn't so sure what, he also does painting, he also does roofing, and he does electrical, and he did your electrical at your house, and you find major problems. The whole wiring is wrong. They used the wrong wire.
Yeah.
Now, those $2,000 that is left over in the 10%, it's not going to cover to fix the problem that at that time, you're already drywalled, insulated, stuccoed, painted, floors are in, your countertops are in, cabinets are in, and you find out you have an $8,000 problem. Major problems, Do you think the contractor go back and fix that for $2,000? No way. So, that's the big problem. You don't pay until that item or that trade is being fully checked. So I don't like it when they, well, for me, it's different because I know what to check for. I know if it's done correctly, but homeowners don't. So I wouldn't want to say, well, we feel like 90% of the work is done. There's only 10% left. We can leave that 10% at the end. But then that's when you find that the 80% of the work is done wrong.
Yeah.
Then what?
Yeah.
They have to fix it, and it's going to cost you a ton of money.
Yeah, and if
So
they get 90% of their money up front, I mean, after there should be a certain portion, right? I like to normally do 70 to 80% if possible, but yeah, if they decide, hey, they get 90%, 95%, and they're just coming, back to put in light bulbs and stuff like that, will they actually come back for that stuff?
yeah.
Who knows?
And if they have a problem, let's say you have a big problem, are they going to fix it with that 10%, 5%? What if he's not licensed or you just found him? He wasn't recommended. It's a guy you found. He's not licensed and you already paid him out 90%.
Yeah.
And that 10%, you can't hire a new electrician for that, 10% you owe him to fix the problem.
Yeah.
It's hard. And what happens is that you have that same problem with the flooring, with the roofer, with the framer. I got a call from a friend a couple of weeks ago. We gave him a bid. He thought it was too high. So he hired the trades individually. And he's like, I got all the trades 90% paid and no one wants to come back to finish, And it's like the painter thought that the drywaller was going to sand the walls. The drywaller say, I didn't charge you to sand the walls. The painter's going to sand the walls.
Yep. And that's where the miscommunication and making sure if you are going to hire out, if you're going to take that huge role, and I don't recommend it anymore. Honest to God, I really don't. I'm doing it right now. I do not recommend it, especially if you're just starting out. Do not do it. It's going to be a huge learning curve and a hell of a pain in the ass. You will spend more money. It will take longer, almost guaranteed, right? Make sure that you know exactly who's doing what is getting covered by who. And the awesome part about hiring on a GC is that they have the connections, the relationships that like to follow each other. Like the mud guy, the taping and mud guy likes to follow this drywaller because they get it done properly.
Yes.
And those things are crucial because if you're going to hire it out yourself, make sure at least you ask that sub who they like to follow or, who's the best behind them.
That's another interesting point as, all of my subs communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Our framer, our drywaller, our painter, our tile guy, flooring guy, they all communicate. So my framer already knows that my drywaller likes the backing in certain areas this way, that he likes the doors to have frame on this way. So
everybody has their own pet peeves of how they like to work, right? So, and they work that way for that long. It makes sense. They can flow better, right?
Yeah. The drywaller pricing, he's like, oh, everything's already prepped the way I want it. It's going to be cheaper and faster. It just flows so much easier versus having your drywaller come in and he looks at the framings and be like, oh man, this framing sucks. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to have to charge you more to fix this stuff. Yep. You'll be like, well, just let me call my framer and come fix it. That framer is not going back to fix it. It's going to be hard to get that framer out there.
Plus, they get more stressed out. You don't want to stress out your guys. When they're coming over to give a bid or jumping into work, you want to make it, even if it's a big project, you want to make it stress-free and, just easy peasy type of layout. But
so hire a GC and it looks expensive. Believe me, it's going to be cheaper than trying to tackle this job yourself if you have no experience. I'm not saying I have a lot of experience or I'm the best, but I've been involved in every single problem you can think of that pops up in a project. And it's not easy. It's not easy for us that we've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
So for a homeowner to think
somebody just getting started,
I definitely admire their will to try to take this project on themselves, but it's not something that I would advise. Definitely not. If you do maybe a kitchen remodel, something light, maybe something small, but you're doing a whole house remodel or building a new, an addition, a second story addition or a new structure, definitely get a GC. I'm not saying this to get more work. I don't need the work, but you want to get someone that's going to help you protect you pretty much.
Yeah, take it from me, guys. Do not be a fool and think just because you live 5 minutes away, you can handle it and hire out, with all the relationships. We do have some awesome relationships, but nevertheless, you're taking on a bigger responsibility, more time, more money, and people, just more frustration in general. So, Carlos, we got a couple questions left before we wrap it up. But this is a great episode so far, so I appreciate your time. When it comes down to the payments, I know we were talking about it briefly. So do you typically recommend on like a weekly schedule, every 2 weeks or quarterly throughout the project? How do you like to go about it?
My payments are done based on the completion of the work.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
you know, for an ADU, we do
Big checks.
Yeah. It's 1,000. Not even they start small, they get big, and they get small again. So we
Yep.
start with $1,000 down payment that gets you in our schedule. If I say there I'm going to be there May 1st, May 1st, the first thing we do is demo. We get our utilities, and then we do our foundation. When that foundation is ready to pour and we have foundation inspection signed, then you do your first payment for that. It's already been firmed. The material's there. The material's installed. Labor is ready to go. We passed inspection. Now you pay your first payment.
Yeah.
After that, we pour our concrete. The lumber's been ordered. It's been delivered. We got the framer in. Then you might do a second payment for framing.
Sure.
And that's how we do it. So for me, it's not, every Friday, every 2 weeks. It's based on the completion of work. That's the way it should be. If the contractor already furnished the material, he completed the labor, you can pay for that percentage of the completed work. So if if you're doing a flooring and he's 50% done, I would feel okay with paying 50%. He does 30% more and he's at 80. I wouldn't advise to pay that 30% more. I would probably pay up to 75 and then pay that 25. I hate to leave a very small payment at the end for that same reason, because if there is a problem at the end, that little percentage of money left over is not going to fix your big problem.
And that's a recommendation. A good tip right here is I personally like to have a good chunk still owed at the end.
Yes.
And it's going to be difficult to try to negotiate that because the guy doing the work is not going to like that. They want as much money as they can up front, sooner the better. So it's going to be a little bit of a struggle to get that, but I highly recommend that you go that route, because if there are any issues at the end, you want to make sure that the seesaw, which side you're on here, that you have some power or some leeway. Leverage. Yeah. Because if think of it like this, if the work isn't done correctly or whatever it may be, and you need to go out there, hire on somebody else to redo it properly because they don't want to finish it, then it's going to cost you time and money, and usually more than what you have of that chunk at the end. So make sure that you have a thicker chunk as possible that's owed.
Yeah, I like to do my first payment is $1,000 or 10%, and then the rest are split into different amounts. I do start with 10% a down payment, and then it's like a little payment, a medium payment, but usually the 3 or 4 last payments are the same amount. Sure. I try. If they have 3 or 4 payments that are large, and then your final payment is like $2,000 or just a very small percentage of the contract, that doesn't give you any leverage, any power over that contractor. So if the last 4 payments, the last 6 payments, or 3 payments are the same equal amount to your final payment, that's probably okay. It's probably good. But if you down payment, 2 or 3 small payments, and then you got 4 large payments, and then your final payment is like very little, then you don't have any leverage there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The contractors do that sometimes because they would think to protect themselves as well. We protect ourselves by doing that. I don't do that, but some do and say, you know what, I'm going to get 3 big payments. And at the very end, it's a small payment. Just in case something happens, I've already been paid.
Yeah.
I've been covered, and I don't have to go back and finish it because it's only 5 or 10% of the contract. Screw it. I already made it in this job.
Yeah, exactly. So. And it happens so often. That's why it's like, these are great tips. Like, make sure you guys are writing this stuff down because it is so crucial. Carlos, when it comes down to protecting the client's time in the project, right? It's one of the 3. Time is very crucial, depends on the area, but San Diego, it's very important. Time is money out here. Our holding costs for each month, just for holding the property, not doing a damn thing on it, is anywhere from like $8,500 to $9,500 naturally, very often on our project. So when it comes down to time, do you recommend the client to request like a penalty or, and I always recommend this, like when I started doing this, it started saving me. If you're going to talk to the contractor, GC or subs, and put a penalty in the contract, for it taking too long, make sure that you put a bonus in there as well if it gets done early. If not, it's just not fair. It doesn't make sense, and they're not going to want to put anything in there if you're going to be like, an asshole about it, right? You got to make sure that there's favor on both sides.
Correct. That's exactly how I do it. Customers sometimes will approach me, and this is mostly investors. Homeowners might not have that experience to add at penalty.
They've never done it, so they're going to start learning real quick.
But investors are more experienced, so they do add that penalty, and that's my first answer that I give them. So as soon as they say, hey, you know what, you have 2 months to complete this project. If it's not done in 2 months, you're going to get a $50 or $100 per day penalty.
Yep.
My first thing is say, okay, that's fine. But if I finish a day early, what's harder, to finish late or finish early?
Yeah, both, right? To finish on time is a damn chore. It's a project.
What's harder to do, to finish earlier or to finish later?
Finish early, for sure.
Finish earlier. So maybe $150 per day that I finish early.
Respectable. Yeah, by all means. Yeah.
If I finish a week early, I'm entitled to maybe the X amount of dollars. If you're okay with that, then let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. That's a healthy relationship.
It is. Yeah. And it should be that way. And it's good accountability, that you guys can put in there. But like I said, if you're going to put in the penalties, and I prefer to, I think it is a smarter move. Otherwise, the time frame could get well out of hand. And when I haven't, I've seen it just drag out. And then it's like, well, what are you going to do at that point? Then you're just begging people to show up to get the job done, right? So that's not good.
You're probably begging for that bid as well sometimes.
Yep. And that's true. These are amazing. I mean, we could go on and on all day here, I feel like, but I'm just super thankful for you, Carlos. It's been almost an hour and a half here. So we are going to cut it for, the time's sake for the listeners. But I know you guys all found a ton of value in this. Make sure you reach out to Carlos and just show him some love, connect with him. If you guys are local here in sunny San Diego, California, make sure you connect with him and see if it's a good fit to work together. By all means, just tons of value from this guy. So Carlos, how can people get a hold of you?
Very easy. Social media, everything. You can always call me at my direct number, which is 619-219-1522. That's my cell phone number. I reply to every text and phone call as much as I can. I do get a lot sometimes, and I do forget, but I try to get back to everyone. And you can also email me at carlos@hmsandiego.com. But yeah, I'm everywhere. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. We're on website. We have our website, hmsandiego.com, and you can always message in any platform.
Yeah, and guys, check out his Facebook page. It has a bunch of just awesome content on the active live projects. Sure, on some of your websites and everything else on other platforms you do as well, but very inspirational, and you guys are just crushing it. So very exciting to see that. Bro, you just gave over an hour, almost an hour and a half of your time. Anything that the listeners or myself could do to give back to you?
Not much. I'm not asking for anything. Just if you guys have questions or anything about any project, I'm always happy to help you, even if you're not going to hire me. So.
Love it. Appreciate you, man. Well, nothing but love, bro. Keep doing your thing, and definitely want to connect more with you. You got we live in the backyard here, so it's a no-brainer, and I'm just super grateful that you're able to give back so much knowledge to the listeners. I know this was an amazing episode, and we're probably going to have saved like thousands of people out there from making those, common mistakes that silly real estate investors like myself have made in the past. So I appreciate you, brother.
All right, no worries. Thank you for the opportunity to be on the show.
Till next time, guys, we'll see you next week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave a review under Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast, and we will see you next Monday. God bless.
This has been another episode of Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast, brought to you by Brandon Elliott. For more information, please visit BrandonElliottInvestments.com. Also, please don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. Thanks again for joining. Until next time, God bless.